I've been playing the guitar since I was 13, and I've become quite proficient at it. I have many guitars, but a guitar that held a huge place in my heart, but for a very short time in my life, was a very special Martin D1 guitar. I got it a few months ago from a good friend of mine by the name of Eric, who worked at a guitar shop. He was willing to sell me the guitar for a relatively inexpensive price. He seemed anxious to give it away, but I thought nothing of it. He said that if I had any problems with it, to let him know. Okay, I chuckled, knowing that other than it occasionally going out of tune, my guitar would be perfect. After I bought the guitar, I took it home to find that although it was old and dusty, it was in almost perfect condition and sounded beautiful, even though it was out of tune. After taking it back to my apartment, cleaning it up and tuning it, I played it for a few minutes and was immediately in love with it. I then ate dinner, played my brand new guitar, and went to bed after realizing the time. I had stayed up a bit later than I usually do, for reasons you can probably guess why by now. I knew at the time I would have so much fun with my new guitar. The fun wouldn't last long, though. About a week later, I went to bed, this time remembering to put basic needs before my strong urge to play music. Later that night, however, I was awoken when I thought I heard a faint F note being strummed on my guitar. But something about the way it sounded sent shivers down my spine, like it was the minor key of F, not the major. If you don't know what that means, it basically means my guitar was playing a tone that sounded very sinister. It kept playing the same note repeatedly. But when I turned my head to look at it, it went mute. I shrugged it off, thinking that maybe I was just imagining things. But when I tried to go back to sleep, I heard the same note. Very repeated, very slow. I had many questions floating through my head, but most importantly, why was my guitar making such a noise with nobody playing it? I awoke the next morning to eat breakfast, which usually consists of corn pops. The only thing that was on my mind at this point was my new guitar. I had a million questions. Why was it playing by itself? How is that possible? But most importantly, who should I ask to get the answers to these questions? I couldn't tell Eric now, because I couldn't be late for work. And I couldn't call my parents, because they would just think I'm crazy. Shrugging off those questions, I proceeded to enjoy my now soggy corn pops. I decided to ask another friend of mine, Ross, who happens to be my coworker. After my shift as a Walmart cashier was over, I told Ross about the problem with my guitar. That's impossible, Ross replied skeptically. A guitar can't make noise by itself. I know that, I said, panicked. But somehow it does, and it only does so at night. Well then, Ross shrugged. I can't help you. I thanked Ross for his time and patience and left work. After a few nights of the same thing happening, the first place I went was the guitar shop where Eric worked, taking my new guitar with me. I went through the entrance. The shop was full of racks of beautiful guitars, all of which were enticing me to reach out and play one, but this time, I resisted. Usually, I don't. I sometimes would stay at the shop for hours, mostly checking out the guitars, but I would also spend time talking to Eric, asking him how his work was going. But that was the least of my worries today. Hey John, how you do? Eric was about to say, but then he was cut off by the fearful expression on my face. What's wrong? He asked, with a look of confusion. There's something I need to tell you, I replied, stammering from the fearful experience from last night and many nights before. Eric opened his mouth to ask me what it was, but I stopped him by holding up the guitar. Was it playing an F note? He asked. Yes, I answered. Did it keep playing repeatedly? Yes. Did it stop every time you looked at it? Yes. Did it sound scary? Yes. Does this only happen at night? Yes, I replied. Well, Eric told me, that's exactly what it was doing with me. I sold the guitar to you to see if you would experience the same thing. Whoa. Stop it. I paid for this Martin D1, tried to write a song with it, and you're telling me this now? I shouted in anger. Well, I can give you a refund, Eric said, trying to calm me down. I don't care that I wasted the money, I snapped back at him. I'm just mad that you didn't tell me before you sold the darn thing. Well, he was about to say, and then he sighed. I'm sorry. I just thought that if I told you beforehand, you wouldn't believe me. I smiled and said, Oh, Eric, it's fine. I know how you feel, trying to describe something you experienced, but people think you're crazy. But I experienced it, and I'm glad you told me now, because there's no better time. Besides, money is worth way less than you. Aw, thanks, Eric replied happily. You look traumatized, though, John. I bet you've had some rough nights. Yeah, I responded, yawning. Tell you what, John, Eric proposed. How about you come sleep at my house, and I'll have the guitar in the bedroom. I'll also have a video camera at the ready for when the guitar starts playing itself. I'll start recording as soon as we go to sleep, and we'll leave it running all night, in case anything happens. That way, if we need proof to tell anyone what happened, we have footage. It's a deal, I agreed. Later that evening, I met Eric at his house. The evening started relatively peacefully. We greeted each other like friends usually do, and we started playing guitars together, throwing around ideas for writing songs as well. Eric suggested something about yellow submarines, and I suggested something about blackbirds singing in the dead of night. This carried on for a few hours, and then it was time for dinner. We went to our favorite restaurant, Outback. They served the best steak there, but not only that, every Friday, which happened to be today, there would be live music. No, not just live music, amazing live music, performed by Sweet Pea's Revenge. After eating the wholesome steak and allowing our ears to savor the wholesome live music, we went back to Eric's house and got ready for bed. Eric made sure the camera was fully charged, and I made sure the guitar was in our room. After preparing for a good night's sleep, or at least a night to finally see what would happen, Eric pressed record. The first few hours of the night went wonderfully. We got what we needed after weeks. Sleep. However, it all went downhill at about 3 in the morning. We started hearing the faint tone, and immediately woke up. We turned to look at the guitar, but this time, it didn't stop. In fact, the tone kept getting louder and louder, and the string was being strummed faster. We exchanged aghast looks. Eric decided to put the guitar in the closet and put a few rubber bands around the neck so that it would bother us no longer. I agreed, following Eric while holding the camera, making sure to record everything just in case. The guitar stopped making noise, but only for about another hour. Soon, the same tone was playing, getting louder, getting faster. I think I'm gonna take off the strings, Eric said, with a quiver in his voice. After Eric and I took off the strings of the guitar, we crawled into Eric's bed, shaking. We could no longer sleep at this point. Then, only minutes later, we heard the noises again. The guitar was playing itself, without strings. We then decided to destroy it. After having banged it up and thrown it in a nearby alley, we finally got some sleep for once. For a few minutes, that is. We started hearing the tone again, very faintly at first. Played repeatedly, but very slowly. Over time, however, the note was strummed louder and faster, and it sounded as if it was getting closer. We awoke at the same time to see that my beaten-up guitar was floating right in front of Eric's window. I checked the battery life of the camera. Dead. I then swore I heard it in a demonic voice coming from the guitar somehow.
You have driven me to my limit. Now it is your turn.
We woke up in hospital beds. What happened? I asked the doctor groggily. A neighbor called 911 and reported screaming in a nearby house. The police and paramedics arrived on the scene to find that you two were lying on the floor with numerous broken bones, appearing to have been tossed around. We recharged the camera you had set out and viewed the footage. Fast forward 3 months later, Eric and I returned to our normal lives. He was a guitar shop employee, and I was a Walmart cashier who wanted to be a musician once again. However, one night, I swore I heard an F note being played over and over again on my favorite Telecaster. Hi, I'm Diamond. I hope you enjoyed this narration today. This is my first creepypasta, so don't expect much. The story was written by me, and I would like to thank Red Leader 895 for voice acting the guitar demon. His channel link will be in the description. He doesn't have any content yet, but he'll get going on it soon. And most importantly, thank you for listening. This is Diamond, and I'm out.